Hi, Mike here. Well, let's cover Express Entry, the CRS points. I'll take a little bit longer on this video because it's slightly more complex. The first thing to remember within the CRS points system within Express Entry, that it's split up into two parts. One can be if you're a single applicant, one can be if you're the principal applicant with a spouse or a partner. The point systems are slightly different. If you have a spouse and a partner, they can bring extra points to your total, but some of your core points are reduced within a spousal or a common law partner CRS points system. Let's look at the major points that can be generated within the Express Entry system. First is age. That's how old you are. And premium is up to 29, you get maximum points. After the age of 29, your points generally will drop 5 points per year, which is a factor. This is done automatically within the system, so on your birthday, if you've got 450 points, then you'll probably drop to 445 points on the date of your birthday. This is automated, you don't have to change your profile for this. Second generator of points is your education. So unless you have Canadian qualifications, you get points generated for your level of education that has been assessed in Canada. So if you're applying to have your degree or your diploma assessed in Canada, then usually go to a company like WES. Unfortunately, and in most cases, vocational qualifications such as NVQs or professional qualifications will not be assessed in Canada for CRS and Express Entry system. Okay, language. Everyone needs to take a language test, certainly the principal applicant, and if you have a spouse or partner, you're going to gain extra points if they take that language test as well. And we've covered that in another video. If it's English language, take an IELTS general language test. There are 4 components: listening, reading, writing and speaking. Realistically, you're going to have to score Canadian language benchmark 9 or more, which is an 8 in listening, 7s in reading, writing, speaking or greater. Let's look at some of the major points. Canadian work experience will generally, under the Federal Skilled Worker Programme, you won't score any points under this because you haven't got any Canadian work experience. But let's say you have 8 years ago, you can gain some extra points. However, if that whole year's skilled work experience is in the last 3 years, you then qualify for the Canadian experience class, which is a slightly different program, still within the Express Entry system, but you're probably more likely to be selected and your points will be greater through that program. If you've studied in Canada, let's say you've gone over and done a study permit and you've got a diploma, you will gain extra points by having done a Canadian credential in Canada. So a 1 or 2 year program, you'll gain 15 points extra. 3-year program such as a degree, you'll gain 30 points extra. CRS points this is. If you have a brother or sister in Canada who is a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen, you can gain 15 extra points for that. Slightly to go back over language score again, French language ability. If you have French language ability as well as in English language, this is a big factor and you can get an awful lot of points, up to 72 points extra by taking a French language test. Now, probably the most difficult part of this to understand is the transferability section. Transferability is a big generator of points. It combines language and your assessed qualifications, or language and your skilled work experience. Generally, if you're outside of Canada, you'll be looking at the education part of this. You've taken your language test. They will split this up into language, your language results, and your qualification. Do you have a qualification that is that took in Canada? Has it been assessed that it took 3 years or more, or under 3 years? So for instance, if you have a master's degree or a degree and a secondary qualification and a good language test, you're going to score maximum points. The other factor with transferability without Canadian work experience, this is if your work experience combined with language. To be eligible for the Federal Skilled Worker Programme, you must have 1 year's skilled work experience, and this must be continuous. The next step up for points is 3 years work experience plus a language test. Now, after this first year's continuous work experience, after that the work experience does not need to be continuous. However, if you can, over the last 10 years, achieve 3 years skilled work experience and you've got a good language test, CLB 9 or more, you're going to gain maximum points within this. There are other factors you can gain additional points for, CRS points. So for instance, if you have a trade certification in Canada, if you have a labour market impact assessment, or if you've been nominated by a province. The nomination by a province obviously is very popular because it then will generate 600 points within the express entry system. So it kind of doesn't matter how many points you have. If you get nominated by a province, those 600 points, let's say you've got 300, 350, turn into 900, 950, which means usually within a couple of weeks you will be invited to apply for permanent residency. So the CRS system is a system that will automate. Once you have a profile up, you've got your credentials assessed, you've taken your language test, you have a set score. You can change that score, you increase your education, or you get a better language score. You can adapt. Express Entry CRS system is a very flexible system. If, for instance, you've got 2.5 years of work, skilled work, once you reach 3 years of skilled work, your points will generally go up by 25 points. So it's an automated system that will change the points, or you can input new data into the system to increase your points. Your age is a factor that again is automated, so a year older, your points generally over the age of 30 will reduce by 5 points. I found over the years probably the best way, because I mean the CRS system and Express Entry, you usually have 150, 200,000 people within this system. And IRCC, you only take the cream of the crop from the top 5–10% with an Express Entry. So many people within this system for many years and nothing happens. So you've got to be proactive. If your points are, say, in the lower 400s, probably the answer for you, and certainly if you have a spouse or partner, is to get over to Canada, one of you study, to allow the other to get a work permit to work in Canada. Not only does that increase your points, but it will then allow you to come under the Canadian Experience class, where generally the draw is a lot lower, and that would be a route to gain permanent residency. So let's just go back to the fundamentals. Express Entry, the CRS system. CRS Points is a ranking system. You are ranked against everyone else within the system, and you have points that are flexible depending on your circumstances, and those points can change. The Canadian Immigration Authorities will select people generally every 2 weeks. What we've seen, that we haven't had a draw for quite a while under the Federal Skilled Worker Programme, but when we did for a couple of years, the points were around 470 or above. In general, that kind of meant that you had to be in your lower 30s with a master's degree or a degree in a secondary qualification, excellent language tests, and 3 years work experience. Not everyone has that. So for most people, if your points really are in the lower 40s or in the lower 400s or in the 300s, you probably will be looking at getting to Canada, initially on work permits or study and work permits to get that Canadian work experience, to then potentially be nominated by a province to generate the extra points to achieve the ITA, the invitation to apply for permanent residency that you require.